Welcome to Daggers and Shadow Daddies.
We're your hosts, Ryan and Adriana.
Buckle up, Buttercup.
Quick disclaimer, this is a reread for Fourth Wing and Iron Flame as we prepare for the book Onyx Storm. Spoilers ahead. Who has listened to chapter 30 more, you or me?
Me.
How did that happen?
It gets me horned up. What can I say? I think the storms are calming, you know?
Oh, yeah. Orgasmic storms.
Well, that's, when you think about it, right? Maybe the storm when she was crossing Parapet was foreshadowing.
Of her future orgasms. Exactly.
She was so horny to cross Parapet. It just started happening.
So how many times have you listened to chapter 30?
Total?
Yes.
3 or 4, because we listened to it the first time when we listened to this book.
Yep.
I listened to it while I was working, and then I warned you, don't listen to this while you're working, because I was working and there's a sweet old lady talking to me while I'm listening to the dirtiest shit in this book. And I'm trying to keep a straight face and, you know, look her in the eye, let her know I'm paying attention. It was really tough. And then I wanted to listen to it again while you did. There's so many times where I went back to chapter 30 for little reference points.
There are several references.
Yeah.
I didn't expect to actually have that many notes for chapter 30.
Did you email me some of those notes? You're
No.
like, oh, pardon, sir.
Need to do some research.
Yeah, whatever you want to call it.
Another thing that I wanted to point out about this is Xaden has to be the end game because any other guy she would murder if they were to sleep together.
What do you mean?
Who would survive this with her other than Xaden?
Well, they might stop fucking as the curtain engulfs the rest of the room in flame. But initially, I don't know, man. I think it could be done.
You think that there are other dudes or ladies that could handle Violet?
Yeah, I do. I think that there will be more fire. Don't get me wrong. But I assume eventually she gets this under control because they're going to have to live somewhere that isn't a castle at some point. Raise a family.
Okay.
What are you going to do? The baby's sleeping in the crib next to the bed. You guys are going to bang one out and lightning strikes the crib? I don't think so. Oh, that's why there's rubber baby buggy bumpers.
Oh my gosh. Wow, that was so smooth and quick.
Yeah, I'm here to help.
Then do you think Xaden and Violet will make it to the end of this series as a couple?
I do, but I kind of wish they wouldn't.
Oh no, really? I hope.
Cool if it was enemies, lovers, enemies.
Then back to lovers.
No, and then just like a mutual appreciation. And they part ways having had that experience together.
That's just the end of the book. I have heard some people think that they would die at the end, but not stop being lovers.
Oh,
like their
Romeo
story
and Juliet stuff.
Yeah, their story ends, but it's never ending with them not being lovers.
Yeah, I mean, I can see that being the case with these books, but I think it would make for a much better story to not have that.
What if she loses Taryn? Unfathomable, I know.
She dies.
She loses Taryn, but she still has Andarna. So she's okay and survives, but because Taryn is gone, Sigale then dies, and Xaden's left without Sigale, and Xaden takes on the full power of a Venom, and now they're enemies.
So, no. Taryn dies. I've stopped reading the book. That was the end of the series for me.
That was it. We're all done.
Yeah. No, if Taryn's out, I'm out. It's that easy. I think that could make for a good story, too. What I actually think would be super rad is Violet, Xaden. Oh, he turns, he loves her, blah, blah, blah. But no, he's kind of in the wind, right? He's an enemy that's hard to keep track of.
Wait, where are we at in our made-up story?
Well, right now, I've got spoilers just after Xaden turns Venom.
Right.
Now he's become an enemy. He's sort of antagonistic, but not the big bad. But there's, for whatever reason, the big bad guy has got something on Xaden that encourages Xaden to continue drawing more and more from it. Becoming Venom also makes you ugly, right? Xaden turns ugly. His eyes darken one last time. Boom. Now they're all red or whatever, instead of the onyx black with gold flecks that he had before. Now he's just some ugly dude that Violet's hunting actively. Sigale. This brings me to so many questions I actually have about Sigale.
And we
Xaden.
still have a whole other book to go through.
Honestly, I think the next coverage will be less dense because there will be less spoiler territory to go into. That's probably not true, though. The next book has way more event going on.
I don't even know. In chapter 30, which we will get back to, he's very resistant to chapter 30 essentially happening. And I thought the first time reading, he was so noble and just a nice guy. Turns out he's got a lot of secrets that he knows she's going to be pissed at him. And he's like, no, she's going to hate me even more if this happens. And she finds out.
But then all his shadow blood went to his boner.
Exactly.
He couldn't keep thinking. Honest mistake. No, I think it would be cool if these books went in a way that didn't require Violet to have Xaden to feel complete. I think that would be super rad. If it was just an empowered story, like she had this love and this love was amazing, but her life continued after it.
Oh, that is so sad. No.
Okay.
No.
All right.
No.
Never mind. Sorry. I apologize for being a feminist.
We ended with holding up the map, looking to Xaden for validation, tips his hat at her, and scene. Starting with chapter 26. We learn that there's no greater bond than two mated dragons. That's a little intro snippet, a little foreshadowing of the problems that are about to happen. They go to Montserrat, and it's the safest place, and that's why they're letting the first year, second years, all that go.
It's the safest outpost.
Yeah. And Rhiannon's family lives nearby. They have this whole plan. They're going to do all of this. And then she sees Mira.
Well, so she sees Mira there. Then they develop this plan. And they're like, don't worry, we're going to sneak out. And I think we're really led to believe that they're sleuthy. Other than every time they try to sleuth, they're caught by somebody.
Yeah, they were caught immediately by Mira.
They're not sleuthy at all. I like that they happened to run into Mira. Mira's like, yeah, you guys weren't sneaky at all. Like, everybody knew what you guys were planning. It's like they were whispering like this. So when are we going to go see your family?
She made it sound like Mira and her have this connection as sisters, that I'm your sister. I can tell when you're acting suspicious, so I followed you.
It reminded me of the John Ralphio thing. Don't be suspicious.
Don't be suspicious.
Yeah.
That's them sneaking
out. Just sneaking out while they're just singing it to each other. And then Mira's like, I know you, Violet. That's why you can't get anything past me. And in reality, she said, Violet's just not sneaky.
Do you think Mira is at this outpost, the safest outpost, because of her mom?
No. I think Mira is there because of what she can do with the wards. And I assume this is the safest outpost because it's ward proximity.
Oh, okay. That makes sense. I was thinking maybe it was her mom.
Wait, is she a lieutenant?
Yes. As soon as you leave after third year, you become a lieutenant.
So really, Bezgaeth is just OCS.
Yes.
Awesome. Okay.
Oh my God. Yeah, you're right. That is what it is. Because then you have infantry. That's in a whole other section.
NCOs and...
Yeah.
I have something on this note that I want to ask before I forget. Nobility is not allowed in the Riders Quadrant.
Right.
Who was Sigale bonded to prior to Xaden?
His grandfather, which was a known king at the time.
Or at least a noble.
Yeah.
Tyrandor.
Yeah.
Right. Where did his grandpa die?
I don't remember.
In the Riders Quadrant. He did not graduate Bezgaeth. How is it that Xaden's family line kept going? They're not allowed to be married prior to getting out of there. I mean, granted, you can have babies out of wedlock, I suppose. But it seems like your grandpa would have been 21 years old.
Maybe it was his mom's dad?
Ooh, it could be.
I don't know.
But we don't know anything about his mom. So that's possible, I suppose. I was just looking at this and I was trying to do the math on this. I was like, wait a minute. So Sigale was bonded to your grandpa. Your grandpa died before he graduated, but nobility wasn't allowed there. And you're noble. There was some interesting math going on there.
I don't remember anything learning about any of this.
We don't have to get into it further.
But anyways, back to chapter 26.
Mm-hmm.
They leave. They get caught immediately. Mira goes with them, and they're talking together when they're over there. She talks with their sister. They discuss information being withheld, And the sister says that they don't need to know everything about all these other missions, only their own missions. And that explains away why Violet thinks that there's missing information. She's like, no, you're just not allowed. Nobody is allowed all of this stuff.
Right. She's a good soldier. That's the idea, right?
Yeah. She, I think, is starting to clue in on some stuff, though, because she points out that there were other riders leaving after this one attack, and there was no report of it at all. And she assumed that would be something she would hear about. And she just swept it under the rug, thinking, oh, I'm clearly just not allowed to know this.
Yeah, I don't think Mira's the dummy she's kind of painted to be in the beginning, right? Because Mira doesn't question anything other than her mom's decision to send Violet into the Rider Squadron. But also, I think it has something to do with Bezgaeth and the way they train them.
Wait a minute, what if those other riders were actually Xaden and them dropping off supplies and leaving, hence why the Griffin attack that happened and why she didn't hear about who those other riders were?
That's what I think we're led to believe.
Well, I'm just figuring this out right now.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. In piecing this together in this moment, I thought that I was super witty in figuring out, oh my God, his pack is a little bit lighter leaving this time around.
The words are faltering. We don't know why. Oh.
Goodness. Anyways, back to this. I think Mira is starting to pick up on there's something going on and she just doesn't know what.
Yeah.
They talk about the Fables book.
Yeah, Mira's like, don't worry, I got it for you, homie. Goes, Mom would have thrown it away or burned it or some shit, and I figured you'd want it. So Mira's just been hiding it.
Yeah, I thought it was really cute that she did this for her sister.
Yeah, I completely agree. It shows some level of obstinance in Mira.
And Mira remembers all of the stories from it, though.
Yeah, they all grew up with the books. In the beginning, it's really played as like, Mom was around Brennan and Mira. Dad raised Violet. It kind of gives a thing where it was like a broken home, but it really wasn't. You know what I mean? Dad still had influence on all of the kids. Just Violet was one that was specifically being trained to be a scribe. And it's because she could read good. And bird bones. Those two things together. No, I completely agree. I don't have a lot on this one.
No, that's okay. And the moment where Violet is recognizing the family dynamic with Rhiannon and her family versus her own, that was really sad.
What this kind of points to, too, is you wonder who that is in Rhiannon's family that sort of it causes that closeness to remain. Because, like, in my family, we were all very, very close. And then when the glue to that situation passed, it's odd how quickly those ties separate.
Ooh, that probably even explains a lot of Violet's family. As soon as her dad is gone, Brennan's gone.
Brennan.
Yeah, as soon as they lose Brennan. Oh, that's so sad.
Yeah. I know I said it happily. Yes.
Yeah.
So sad. No, I completely agree.
As they were talking about the Fables book, I had to re-listen to this several times because Mira reflects on why the villains would choose to corrupt their souls and become a venom. She talks about it like it's not a fable, like she's sympathizing with this story and trying to understand it. And she acknowledges that the power that she and all these writers have is something worth killing for.
Yeah, I think sympathizing is an interesting way to put it because I think you're probably right. I took it more as she's acknowledging.
Yeah.
Where she's just like, hey, it's not that far-fetched. People do dumb shit for less things all the time. It seems like the minute you bonded a dragon, you could understand venom. And now you have this power, but not just the power, this feeling of belonging to something greater than yourself. You could understand. You're like, oh yeah, the venom, they're not going to get this feeling of belonging to something greater, but this power, it's intoxicating in some way.
Huh. I don't know. I was just very surprised by Mira being the one saying this. And that's why I had her listen to it, because I thought it would have been Violet who was the one telling her this, bringing it up of, wow, this is a lot of power for people and this makes sense with the venom. I was expecting the scene to be more Mira being like, Violet, venom aren't real. Quit pretending. That's not a thing. Nobody can pull power from the ground. And instead, it was Mira who was saying this, and brought up this is a lot of power. And while I don't fully understand why someone would sell their soul, it does make sense why people would kill us for it.
Do you think that Mira is saying it as if the Venin are real? Or do you think Mira is saying it as like people who take the Bible in a less literal way?
Yes, it's that.
Like, oh, see, like...
Because it's a fable. We can learn from it.
It's meant to be. Absolutely.
And then Xaden pops out of the shadows. And they get caught again.
Nobody's sneaky. It's so weird. You would think there would be like a ninja division. But then they realize too early on, they're like, these riders are fucking bad at hiding. Except Xaden Riorson.
How do you hide a dragon?
Well, this is the thing. You couldn't hide a dragon, but you could at least hide, what you're doing a little bit.
How did they fly Terran out of here, actually? How far out did they have to run and leave?
They waited for him. He was out in a field, right? They were an hour-long walk. They walked 10 minutes out of there, and then he flew real close to the ground until they were out of vision.
Okay.
It's kind of like, when you didn't sneak out of the house as a teenager. So as a teenager sneaking out of the house, we lived in the middle of nowhere on a hill. So when I was sneaking out, I would put my truck in neutral and I would roll it down the hill until I was about a quarter mile down the road, basically until I would have to either push it up the hill or let the truck go under its own power. And I'd start it right there as quietly as I could up over the hill, then turn on the lights once you're over the hill. That's what they do with the dragon.
I was a good kid. I never snuck out.
I know. You were a great kid. I was not. Big windows, you could walk out onto the deck and then roll the truck down the hill. And I assume that's what they're doing with the dragons. They're just rolling them down the hill.
But it also kind of cracks me up with the whole, how did you find me? And I don't know if that actually happened in this moment, but...
How did you find me? Well, people were screaming.
But I just pictured Taryn just sending Sigale a quick message like, hey, just letting you know, I'm going to be over here when you show up.
My question is, what's the use of having a town that's a 1 hour walk from the outpost? It became just inconvenient to get goods either to the outpost or to the town. Unless you have a dragon. We never hear about other animals, really, other than the sheep that the dragons are eating. I assume other people must be riding horses. Let's say a hiking pace is about 3 miles an hour. That means this place is 3 miles away. If, let's say, a horse's steady moving pace is around 11 miles an hour, when you're going back and forth, that's still like an 18-minute ride.
I'm glad you're getting into this because I had a mental note of they leave Montserrat back to Bisgayeth and it took all day to get there. How long do you think that is? Is that an 8-hour flight? 10? 24 hours?
No way. No, first of all, most of these people are actively having to squeeze their thighs against the dragon to stay on. Unless these motherfuckers got tree trunks and spurs. There's no way. No way that this is any longer than, I think an all-day ride for them is probably 5 or 6 hours, which your ass is sore. Even if you got a saddle. If you're on a horse for 4 hours, you don't get off the horse and be like, well, I'm ready to go do other things now. You're ready to find somewhere to like lay on your tummy for a little bit and give your ass a break.
How fast do you think Terran flies?
Okay, so here's the thing. I want to take a crack at this, but I want to do it under better circumstances where I'm more aware of things. In order to achieve lift, their wings have to be fucking enormous.
I thought incredibly fast, like in a small airplane.
How small?
I don't know.
Single prop. What are we talking? We're not talking turboprop planes here.
This is you. This is your area. I was hoping you would give me the details.
I really don't know. I think what would be a safe assumption is if they're able to keep their eyes open at all without wearing goggles. And if they're sitting upright instead of laying down flat on it. I'm going to use things that aren't necessarily math, just anecdotal experience. Do you know why you put windshields on a motorcycle primarily, even if you're wearing a helmet?
Why?
Even on a sport bike, you have this tiny little windshield. And that's so that the air drafts around you as much as possible. Because the funniest thing you'll see guys do when they're new to riding a bike is they'll get up to like 100 miles an hour or even, $140, and they'll go to slow down and they'll sit up. If you sit up quickly and you're going 140 miles an hour on a sport bike, the air is actively trying to yank you off the back of that motorcycle because there's so much wind resistance. I think the math comes out to be at 100 miles an hour at sea level, the density of the air that you're pushing through is almost sponge cake. If you're on a dragon, most of these people don't have windshields on their dragon, and most of them also do not have saddles. They're actively holding on and probably leaning down. My guess is they are at tops flying like 120 miles an hour, maybe, because at 200 miles an hour, your eyes aren't open. And at 100 miles an hour, you can't see anything without goggles or something on. Your eyes just dry so fast.
She had to put goggles on very, very quickly, and she could barely pull them down over her face.
And to be fair, even at 50 or 60 miles an hour, the amount of air moving by, it's abrasive, and your eyes dry really quickly. At 200 miles an hour, your eyes aren't opening without goggles on.
They're allowed to have goggles, but they're not allowed to have saddles.
Again, it's not that they're not allowed. Remember, Taryn points this out. There is no rule. It's just seen as weak. And nobody's designed one yet. Until, luckily, the engineer of the group, Xaden Riorson. Engineer, strategist, sex machine. He's a triple threat. His eyes darkened and he perfected the saddle. He's got one for the dragon and one for him.
Oh, no.
Yeah. Onyx Storm, he walks up to her, turns around, he's got a saddle strapped to his back, and he's like, hop on. He just gets down and whinnies. She's like, he's got the cock for it. This book is awesome.
120 miles an hour.
Yeah, just as a rough frame of reference for where I think I could sit up there with goggles.
5 hours.
Oh, you would be spent.
How far is that?
600 miles.
I need a reference.
You would use, so also for airspeed, we use knots and not miles per hour because it doesn't. Okay. All right. Let's say it's a ground speed of 120 miles an hour. We go 600 miles. I want to get so into this because I would enjoy this so much. And I would consult my stepdad on this because he's the pilot and he could inform me if where I've gone wrong with everything. You want 600 miles for a distance?
Yes.
From here, let's go from a town that we last lived in.
Yep.
To Minneapolis.
Okay.
Is about 600 miles. But this is assuming the rest of the dragons can fly as fast as Taryn.
So in a way, the continent is like Colorado and Nebraska, like that whole chunk. I don't know.
It very well could be.
We're going to need to put it against a map now that we have
I would be happy to, if we go through here and reference distances and stuff, actually create a map key for distance in that. I've got questions. I'm going to say 80 miles an hour. I'm adjusting my speed.
All right. We're going to be paying attention for future things.
We will.
Chapter 27. So they're back there.
We've only made it to 27.
Yeah.
Okay. You're right.
Chapter 27, they make it back to the outpost. This is also where the book is at. Oh, wait a minute. I don't remember her saying she grabbed the book. I think she did. She must have. She went.
When she was packing her stuff quickly, I'm sure.
Yeah, I'm sure.
She's like, just in case my sister dies, I better grab this now.
No. Mira is very suspicious of Xaden. Dain is glaring at Xaden while they're all in Mira's class. There is palpable energy between her and Xaden as soon as he enters the room. Do you think that they are bonded in the same way like Taryn and her? No. They're just horny for each other.
I think they have a mental bond. I have a really shitty, stupid theory.
What?
It's shitty and stupid. Don't make fun of me too much, people. Violet has silver hair for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
Something was going on with some veneniness while she was in the womb.
Yep.
He's using intrinsic powers. Violet seems to be hypersensitive toward magic of any kind being used on anything, right? I think initially there isn't a specific bond between Xaden and Violet. I think it is Xaden's using intrinsic powers, so Xaden has a bridge to everybody. And Violet is just sensitive to it being used on her. And that's why she gets tingly. Because later on, she'll have a similar thing with Dain, even.
Oh,
in other spots where she's like, oh, is he trying to read me? You know what I'm saying?
Maybe.
She seems hyper aware of those things going on.
Oh, we're going to have to pay attention some more.
Little spoiler for later, when she has a mental friend amidst being tortured.
Oh, yeah.
She has a mental buddy. I think that's a construct of whatever her being more or less cured of venonness in the womb did to her. Because it isn't just, I don't believe it's just her going insane. Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah. I thought she was just having a mental breakdown.
I think both could be true, but I don't think it's exclusively that. Anyway, what do you think of that theory? You ready? You own up to something now, so you can get tore up in these comments.
On that note, I have it somewhere.
If you cop out on this.
No, I'll share one of mine.
Good.
Talking about their power and where you're talking about all these links. Her grounding ability, her perception of Taryn, Sigale, and Darna, and Xaden, their doors, and the runes and how you perceive them, the power is always there. I half wonder if the connections are always there, and then she can perceive them, and then she can work with and manipulate them, such as talking with Xaden. It was always kind of there. He finally perceived it, visualized it, and sent something. She wasn't perceiving it, so she wasn't sending anything his way. I wonder if the power that she picks is just how she was perceiving the power that was flowing through her, and that everyone can have whatever power that they want, but if they can't perceive it that way, then it won't happen. She was perceiving the feeling that she was getting as lightning, and that is how it came to be.
I would agree with that. What I think is really fun about this too, I want to touch back on the mind vibing thing. It makes sense that you would be able to receive that in lieu of transmitting that much easier, because even in normal language, it's much easier to listen to somebody speak a language than it is to learn to speak to them. And this is true even if it's your mother tongue, right?
Yeah. Oh, I like that. But she picks up on it pretty quickly.
Yeah, she hears it. I think he's good at transmitting, and then she's like, I can hear you. And he's like, I know. Now learn to talk back, or this is so one-sided.
But it's also not one-sided.
He immediately regrets that also, by the way. She learns to talk back to him, and then she's like, I'm going to mess with him. And he's like, why didn't I see this coming? It's like giving a teenager a car and not expecting them to speed.
Well, he can block her out if he wants.
Yeah, well, until then, he just says, stop it. And she's like, oh, am I distracting you? And he's like, yes, now shut the fuck up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, all right, fair. He hasn't needed to learn to block it yet, to be fair.
True.
Nobody else is talking to him. He's not blocking Sigale out.
Well, I assume he does, just like she blocks out Taryn, or tries.
Well, I think leading up to this point, when would he have tried to have blocked Sigale out? Everybody else says the dragons are constantly in your head. You have to get used to the fact that you never have a moment alone. They're the only two that are ever like, I blocked out my dragon. Everybody else is like, I don't know, man. I saw a butt the other day and my dragon was like juicy. It's the thing I wish they would have shut up. It was harder to maintain an erection. Now every time my dragon talks to me, I get a boner.
No.
You don't think that would happen?
No, I am getting you back on track here.
Oh, okay.
But it's also like not on track.
Okay. Get me off track again here.
So Violet tells him to quit being a dick to Dain. That's when he responds in her head. He's all nonchalant about it, and she is very chalant.
She's quite chalant. A Violet is never nonchalant. We have yet to have seen a nonchalant Violet. I don't think she has it in her.
He kind of begs her to try, like, please try it, please, kind of thing, to have that connection with her. And that is when I thought, oh, I don't think he can hear her direct thoughts unless she sends them. And even with his intrinsic power, I don't think that I don't believe, based off the information we have, can hear exact thoughts of hers.
So I'm going to lightly disagree with you.
That's fine. What do you think?
She says something in her head. I can't remember which chapter. It was earlier, like in the first 15 chapters.
Like, I'm alive. I'm alive.
Yep, that was it. And he said, yes, you're alive. And she said, I didn't think I said that out loud. And it's because she didn't, and he heard her exact thoughts.
Yeah, it wasn't really an intention. It was more you heard.
Her intention is to be grateful for being alive. Like, that would be such a specific way of interpreting intention that it might as well just be a verbatim quote of their streaming consciousness. No, I think Xaden could hear it the whole time. I think he's encouraging her to get better at this because for the purposes of their relationship currently, it behooves them to be able to communicate in a way that other people can't intercept.
By this chapter, he is very obsessed with her by this point, craving her like in his head.
All right.
More than I realized because
he's very horny.
He is, but he is very into her by this point, which I was very surprised by. I didn't realize how quickly he was falling for her.
Yeah. No, I would agree.
Okay, so they have that scene. They're doing their little strategy. What do you think of all the strategy in Dain and Xaden's drama?
It's so funny because Xaden and Dain's interactions, I actually enjoy the two of them. I think it would be fun. They're actually the enemies that I would like to see turn to lovers.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
There's so much animosity, and it's so mutual, right? Dain has some valid points in some of this later on, where Xaden's just kind of being antagonistic for the sake of it. Where he's like, oh, if it's okay with you, Dain. And Dain's like, in case you haven't fucking noticed, I'm good with anything that helps keep her safe. Yeah, I like your saddle, homie. Good job. Thank you. But in this moment, it's out of character for Dain, other than the fact that he's dealing with Xaden, to not see his wing leader as an authority figure. And he never sees Xaden as an authority because he sees Xaden first as a marked one and second as a wing leader, right?
And when Xaden blacks out the room, I'm under the impression that Dain feels scared for Violet, who she is connected to, really seeing how powerful he is.
And Xaden's curated an image of ruthlessness. It makes sense. You would be worried. You'd be like, okay, yeah, he's on your side today, but if he's not on your side tomorrow, you're fucking done, homie. And I think another thing that would be a concern for me if I'm Dain is, why is he keeping you alive? If everybody knows how much he hates your mom and how much he hates Navarre, right? If he harbors all of this animosity, why is he leaving you alive? Probably to use you later, right? As a way to hold you over the general's head or something like that. You would be left with that assumption. So again, while I think Dain's an unbelievable tool, his position in this is understandable. I think Xaden getting to show off and be like, murder all of you right now. If I really wanted to, there'd be nothing for any of you to do. I think that was such a cool moment. And then I love that. They're like, oh, what's your signet, Dain? And Dain's like, it's out of your pay grade. And Xaden's like, I knew it the whole time, you fucking dork. Like, it was just such a funny dick measuring contest.
Well,
because he's totally right. He's not allowed to say it in front of everybody.
He's not allowed to say it, but Violet points this out at some point. He directly asked her to show him and reached for her head in formation with the whole Amber thing. Like, everyone should have been aware.
Hey, I'm not disagreeing with you at all. I'm just saying it was really funny because what's your signet? Well, you see this little patch here. It says classified.
It says, not your business.
It says, mind your goddamn business, homie. It says you're too poor to know. And it just keeps moving. Like, why isn't Xaden's semi-classified? Their whole reasoning for Dain's is Dain's could be used well for torture or information gathering, is the way to put this. Xaden's could be used for any number of things. Also, like, oh, we can tell secrets. I don't see anybody around here. Meanwhile, he's just little eyes blinking in the shadows. It's like, there's Xaden Riorson hanging out, just creeping. His could have been equally useful in espionage, I guess is kind of my point.
I also wish that we could have a flashback chapter between Dain and Violet to see them.
Flash me back this chapter. Now I'm done. I was trying to hold it in and I couldn't help it.
A flashback chapter.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. To really see how good of friends they were in the past, to see all that was lost. Because our gauge of how much was lost was seeing Mira's reaction to them interacting.
And Violet saying that they climbed trees.
Yeah.
Let's not forget that they climbed trees.
They're best friends.
Best friends. Yeah, I think it's why Dain will never be that important in this series. Because we didn't get enough Dain build up for what we lost with Dain.
Not a whole lot happens here. It's just more banter between Dain and Xaden, back and forth, back and forth. Violet and Xaden, well, Xaden can talk to Violet in her head. That all happens. Then Mira pulls them out and she chews them all out. I like Mira's take. One thing that she pointed out, because she's talking about all the problems that'll come from them having bonded dragons, and really giving the perspective that Dain should be having as someone that cares for Violet. But that she's worried that Violet will become Xaden's shadow.
Which I think is a fair concern if you didn't have Terran. If she had bonded any other dragon, but you have Terran and Endarna, which I get Endarna at this point isn't seen as a major benefit to Violet. She's kind of like a pet cat. She's just there sometimes. But she has Terran. Terran is in nobody's shadow. He's good at casting shadows.
And I think Mira points out whatever, she knows that her sister's going to get a power, but whatever it is, if she doesn't train to use it, Xaden will be the more experienced rider.
No matter what, to be fair. Xaden is an absolute powerhouse, right? What I liked, as far as Mira's take, is if she would have just said, okay, Atos, okay, Riorson, get your wieners out. We're measuring right now. It's that easy. And, we make it a length and girth thing, so nobody's got a clear advantage. But I think that that's what we do. In the room full of people, we just say, D-pants, right now.
Didn't someone even make that comment?
I'm sure Riddick did.
I bet it was.
Because it sounds like a Riddick thing also, but it's 100% what should have happened. They both just flop out their wieners, bust out the measuring tape, or stick them together. It doesn't even matter. Just if it's visually that different. If it's not visually that different, then you guys should be friends. Good job. You're both, hogmen. Good for you.
Do you remember that one stupid cartoon tattoo where it's two bros?
Yeah.
Bros and their dicks.
I still want that tattoo. But I don't have anybody to get it with, and if I get it with you, it'd be weird.
It's like two bros wrapping around each other. Just high five.
Yeah, it's the Arnold and Don Glover. Oh, just Google Arnold Schwarzenegger and then bro handshake.
Yes, it's that moment.
It's that moment. And I believe that's Don Glover who is with him in that movie. Is that Predator? No. So anyway, those two rap dicks. It's no big deal. They just Ouroboros each other.
Yes.
And this whole thing would be over. They just need to measure penis. That's it. And that's kind of what Mira's getting at. She's like, hey, you two, I don't care whose dick's bigger. Violet, don't live in the shadow of their huge dicks. That's it.
Move on. Then the Griffins arrive. All this is happening. Now this is my second time through. I thought I was just picking up on clues left and right. She's like, oh, I don't even want to think about what he left behind so he could get me out of here in his pack. But I'm like, oh my God, the attack is because he left stuff.
Well, and it kind of makes sense. Like, he keeps getting these things made, right, by artisans that aren't being used in Besgaia. Nobody's picking up on this.
The dagger, the saddle. Who are your connections, Xaden?
That's the thing. He's just got outfitters for all kinds of cool things. And nobody's questioning any of it. They're like, well, he's had a very interesting life. You're like, he was 16 when he was put into foster care. These connections aren't coming from his foster home. But again, it enriches the book.
What do you think of their kiss as she is getting ready to leave?
Oh, it's wonderful. He sticks his tongue inside her mouth, hard and smooth, and it's sloppy and it's a little gross, but it's raining outside and there's war coming.
And then he puts her in a T-pose and drops down to the ground.
Yeah, exactly. And what song came to mind for you there?
Is it that? It was that same song.
Oh, no.
Oh, which one?
Pearl Jam, You Want to Be Even Flow. We can't always go back to even. That's an Akatos.
That would be so badass if it's just even flow as she's T-posing. Gets
even flow.
And she gets... it's terrifying. And she's just getting flung up onto his back.
I got a free fall on it.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah. Not Journey. The other one. Not Rainbow Kid Surprise. Maybe it is Rainbow Kid Surprise. I can't remember what the band is.
The reason I asked you what you thought about the kiss is the Griffin riders show up. She is taking off. Xaden's then taking off, and they're just a little bit lower. Was Cat one of the Griffin riders, and did he kiss her to kiss her in front of Cat?
No. He saw Cat and remembered what Cat taught him and decided to use it.
No, that's so much worse.
Okay, here's the thing. I'm so excited for when Cat comes into this in the next book because I like Cat as a character. She's an asshole, and she is so perfect.
Like a confident asshole.
Oh, yeah. No, she's awesome. She's my Xaden.
Oh, really?
No, probably.
I saw Imogen as the girl version of Xaden.
Maybe, but I'm saying not so much.
Because she's broody, angry, reserved.
Reserved?
Maybe not.
Where are we getting reserved? No, she longs too much and too inactively. She's like, oh, Xaden, You know, she's like, I dragged my clit through a half mile of broken glass just to flick the sweat off his ball sack. She's too needy.
And I wish that Imogen was just the Xaden version, and where they talk about, oh, she wants Garrick. I wish that Garrick longed for Imogen, or whoever the hell is into Imogen, besides me and you.
You keep trying to bring me into it.
That she was like just the female version of Xaden, and we don't get that, and that kind of makes me sad.
We kind of get that from Kat, though. What we hear about Xaden constantly is when he walks into a room, the air shifts because it's just I like him big. You know what I mean? He's got like that bum, bum, bum. And people are just excited to see him. With Kat, we kind of get the other side of it where it's like, bow, 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 bow. Like,
Kat is too privileged and pretty and pampered.
Almost like the perfect Xaden Riorson, who outside of before going to Besgaia was literally raised to be a prince in a place that was so well-to-do and so confident that they rebelled against their main country and nearly succeeded. Like, it's not that different.
All right, I think you're right.
She's not as powerful. That's the only big thing. If she would have had some super rad powers where it was just a dun 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 dun, you know, like that would have been super rad. But she didn't get any of that. She's just a less powerful, but her power is all in her sexuality, which is similar to how we see Xaden until we really get to know about the shadows. Leading up to that, all we know about Xaden is he's confident, sexy, and he knows it. And he's kind of like...
That is Kat.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I think Kat's kind of the female Xaden initially.
Huh, okay.
Yeah.
Well,
except guess who doesn't turn venom. Give it a good redemption arc.
Well, that makes me happy that you don't think that Kat was there to see this kiss, because the kiss seemed kind of out of place. It didn't make sense. Oh, yeah, and what also made it seem kind of...
distract Violet.
Yeah, but he says, you should leave for me. Why would she do that for you when you think about what their relationship really is?
He knows every thought she's had. It's not a surprise to him. He's like, this bitch has been wanting to climb me like a tree for months. I'm going to give her a little taste, distract her, and then be like, now leave for me. And she's like, fine. He's like, I'll let you touch my wiener later if you leave now. She's like, I'll do it.
Because I would have thought he would have said in that moment, you should leave for Mira, because that's what she wants. Do it for Mira.
Leave for Andarna.
Do it.
That's what I would have loved.
Yeah.
For this baby dragon whom you now have responsibility for. You've more or less adopted a baby.
Yeah.
You need to be there to help her grow up and teach her things. Be there for Andarna. That would have been so sweet.
Because we also know how much Violet cares about Andarna.
But Xaden doesn't know that. He's only reading her mind when she's thirsty for cack.
Yeah, and I was very confused why she would do that for him in that moment. I'm like, Xaden, I don't, like, she
does it.
She does.
Fair. I think he's right.
She does.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I'm more than happy to throw stones at Mr. Riorson. But in this case, I think he's kind of nailed it.
He's like, I'm so hot. I can convince this woman. My kisses are so good. I can convince her to leave.
Is the thing. I'm not surprised by this at all. I'm just like, oh, no, it makes sense. She's thirsty and he's a whole meal.
Well, right now, she is devastated that she's leaving her sister. She thinks her sister's dying, and he's like...
She kind of knew that when she was macking on Xaden. The distraction was effective.
It was effective. Well... I like all of this. This is much better than him doing this because Kat was nearby and tried to show, like, I'm over you. I'm with her now. And I think Kat mentions this when they meet later. I am suspicious.
I'm excited for Kat to be introduced. Again, the sheer gowns, she's gorgeous, blah, blah, blah. People are excited. Even the girls want her. Like, the only thing that sucks is where Xaden's like, I don't like you anymore. And she's like, hey, the thing he does with his tongue, you're welcome. And that was a perfect move. I'm excited for that, honestly. I love that.
All the drama.
Dude, the second book is so great.
Chapter 28, they leave, they come back. That's where it gets into that whole, it's an all-day flight. We need some more details. I'm going to be listening for more flight times and distances. I want to see how big this continent is. We get the little introductory snippet, which is even the closest friends can become enemies.
Not can be.
Will. Really?
I wanted to make this note. Yes, it's basically Brennan saying to Mira, all of the friendships and stuff you make are valuable now, but eventually, if you guys live long enough, you will become enemies, is what he's saying.
What do you think this is foreshadowing for?
It's when he became aware of what was going on with Navarre, is what I think this was. And then also it's foreshadowing for Xaden eventually turning against Violet. I think it shows their parents, because clearly there's some animosity between Lilith and Daddy Sorengale, right? When he learns whatever he learns about Navarre, to where he's revived and then immediately working for the Resistance, there is something going on here where he's like, hey, don't hold anybody too close. Everybody turns on everybody.
I thought for the immediate reason for it being placed here was for Dain turning on her here soon, or in the next coming chapters, or early next book. I don't remember when it happens.
Early next book.
Or Rhiannon.
Again, I think I already told you about my Rhiannon theory.
I don't remember it. What is it?
Oh, I think Rhiannon sells her out eventually. What I will say for now is, I think the point of this snippet is to put everybody under a microscope, because I think it happens in every relationship. But he's not saying you guys are permanently enemies either. I think what it's pointing out is the situation, the lens through which you're viewing these people changes as you move through life.
Mm-hmm.
And it's going to change for everybody. Does that make sense?
It does.
Look at the way Violet sees her mom now versus how she sees her mom at the end of the next book. Shifts the other way. But I wanted to make a mental note, because I can't take physical notes, to ask you to look this up today. Because he does say, it's basically the old adage of, you live long enough to see your friends become enemies, or you die with friends. It's kind of the idea of what he ends at.
I thought you were going to do the Dark Knight adage. I'm like, the old adage of the Dark Knight quote.
Well, yeah, you live long enough to see yourself become the villain.
Yes.
Yeah, but that's kind of the spirit of this, though. It's the same thing. And I think it is an older adage. Maybe I'm wrong.
It is.
Dark Knight inspired all of this.
Yeah.
Thank you, Christopher Nolan.
So she's waiting to hear about her sister. Taryn is telling Sigale about Violet. He's just gossiping about stuff that goes on in Violet. It's just so cute, because it's exactly the type of relationship that I would expect Sigale and Taryn to have. There are no secrets. They tell each other everything. They know everything. You tell Taryn something, well, be prepared. Sigale also knows. And then Sigale goes and tells Xaden. Then Xaden comes over and tells Violet. And Violet then tells Taryn, stop telling her these things. And Darna is my favorite.
It's exactly the way our relationship works.
Yes.
Everybody that's like, can I tell you a secret? And I'm like, only if you want Adri to know. And because honestly, whatever you have to tell me is not something that I'm not going to tell her.
That's probably good.
And that's the thing, is I think it's okay. I don't like pressing for details, but I really like that people are comfortable sharing whatever it is they share. And sometimes I tell them that I actually don't want to hear more. And I think those are the times where you get a little more upset with it. Because I'm like, oh, when they'll start talking and it's fine, and then 5 minutes in, I'm like, oh, hold on. I'm not the person you should be talking to.
I also like to think that Sigale really doesn't care one way or another what's going on in Violet's life. She just enjoys listening to Taryn, and Taryn is just sharing things. Or Taryn is hearing all of the gossip going on in Bisgayeth, and he brings that back to Sigale, and she's just like sitting there listening to him.
Flicking back and forth.
He's the one starting all of these conversations.
It's really funny.
But Darna is her favorite. It didn't seem to really hurt Taryn. He's just like, meh, I'm not going to entertain any of this. Xaden confesses his feelings for her more openly. Again, I was just so surprised by this. He's like, well, things could have changed when this happened, or this happened, or this happened. And she's like, so she is aloof about this. I'm like, well, whatever. Angry, but yet he's still so sexy.
Yeah. Stupid sexy Xaden. Go ahead.
What do you think about the reasons that he gave when he started having feelings for her?
I don't even remember the reasons. What were the reasons?
Bruises around your neck and me wanting to do something about it.
Yeah. So none of those are reasons why he fell for her. I do remember hearing this and thinking, oh, none of these are actually reasons why. This is more reasons of when you would have realized you already had fallen. And most of them are just kind of human reactions to things. Where it's like, oh, when these people were going to murder you, the fact that I wanted to just re-murder them. It's like, yeah, no, that's totally understandable. But that's also just like a human thing. Like, you want to protect somebody from being murdered. It doesn't necessarily, I love you so much, I don't want you dead, is not a romantic thing. But in his own way, through his filter, I think it's pure romance. Am I getting closer?
I don't know. I was very surprised that Violet didn't see it as him falling for her. She took it very literally that, well, he no longer wants to kill me. Great.
He doesn't even want other people to do it.
And that they are kind of like a friends with benefits situation where she kind of just sees them, like she's sexually attracted to him, but she doesn't really take everything that he is saying to her. Like, I'm always thinking about you, or you're always in my head, and these types of comments. And she doesn't really take it in that he is falling for her.
But I think because of the groundwork that he's laid in their relationship, that makes total sense. He is always in her head. Literally every little thing she has going on is being filtered from Taryn to Sigale to him. He is constantly aware of what she has going on. He said this earlier. I am annoyingly aware of everything you have going on. This is the same phrase, just reworded a little. I think it makes some sense where she doesn't see it that way. I also think that it's a real shame that he's not more, he doesn't out and out say his feelings, really. He describes things. And then, so I think it would be unfair to be like, oh, Violet, how didn't you see this coming? It's like, well, in fairness, he talked a lot, didn't say much for a part of this.
Yeah. No, I agree. They fly off. She's starting to really reflect on what Mira had said. Do you really even know him? And she brings up, like, I feel like I know him to his core. And I'm assuming Xaden has the same feeling towards her. He's just not being as blunt with it. But yet I feel like the signs are very obvious and Violet should be picking up on these signs. Oh, well, she asked him about his scars. And I think in this moment, as they're flying, Sigale protects him. Right? She snarls and she takes off, and Taryn's like, hey, he cares about you. And Violet's like, no, he only cares about keeping himself alive. He just told you a few minutes ago that he cares about you.
No, she says, he cares about keeping me alive. Therefore, the transitive property would be him alive.
Yeah.
Right? Taryn says, it's the same thing for him, right? It's Taryn's response to this from her. So it makes sense to me that she's feeling the way she is about it. Because she's like, no, he only cares about keeping me alive, so he doesn't die. And Taryn's like, it's the same thing for him. And she's like, oh, okay. Well, then fuck him still. And Taryn's like, no, but it's sweet when he feels that way. I do totally see where you're coming from with it. I think Mira was right. She does not know Xaden. She knows him intimately in a way because she's mind-vibed with him enough. But she doesn't actually know. She doesn't understand any of his motivations as a human being. She doesn't understand any of his goals. I think this is one of the few moments I got to give it the old scribe brain Violet on this one. Violet's correct. If you formed it really like, oh my God, I love him, it would be foolish. You people don't know each other. You know of each other. And then you have some very intimate connection, but it isn't a knowledgeable one.
I think at this point also Xaden is very, I don't know the term for it, but he wants to be near her all the time. And I really like that Sigale protected him from Violet in this moment. Yeah, he is.
Yeah, I agree. Sigale's the wise one. But it's 20-year-old kid love.
Yeah.
You know, it's first love stuff. And I do think that there's something really sweet about that. And I think the method of acknowledging it through the dragons creating the distance and kind of policing it to a certain extent is perfect.
And I'm sure Sigale made a snide comment to Taryn as she flew away. Like,
keep that bitch on a leash?
Yeah.
That would be awesome.
Get her under control. This is not happening. After all of that is when they discuss the war games that they're about to play. It's like capture the flag, protect the flag, and capture an egg type of game.
Possibly professors.
Oh, I didn't catch that. Yeah.
They're worth fewer points than an egg and more points than a flag, which I found really interesting. Like, capturing a professor did not rate where I thought it would.
Do the professors know that they're going to be taken or like are
I hope.
abducted?
I hope they're doing it willingly, like they're a part of the game. But I think if they are not aware of that and they think they're just being abducted, they should be worth far more points than a crystal egg. I don't give a shit if it's Fabergé. Okay? You go steal General Sorengale and still lose? That's a weird game. And they're like, oh, it's because... But the points for each thing are different, right? Because you never know which objective is actually worth the most, just like on a real mission. And I'm like, no, that's incorrect. If you have a mission to capture something or somebody, you don't change what your objective is halfway through the mission. It's a different mission to capture a different thing. Imagine they're going after Saddam Hussein, right? And when they were going after him, they were like, well, we got Saddam, and they're like, actually, we wanted that guy. And there's just some guy over there. Oh, shit. And they're like, that's it. New mission. We're getting that guy. Like, it's just, that's not the way things work. You actually do know the value of your target. That's why it's a target for you. But they're like, but in a real mission, we may need to shift gears immediately and do something else. I'm like, so there's just no strategy among these dragon riders. It's very much fly in, destroy shit, and figure out what things are worth later. They're pirates.
Isn't that kind of what the Griffin flyers say about them?
The Griffin riders have so many criticisms, and all of them are completely correct. Oh, it's a death college. It didn't need to be. Anyway.
Yeah, I found that the Griffin flyers must be so much better than the dragons to be able to compete in any way.
Yes, you have weak magic. Things that can't fly half as well, they're not as fast, and they're a little dumb. And you know what? These people are putting up real numbers against these dragon riders. They are better. Their training is better. Their strategy is better. They just have less good shit. It's like a militia fighting the United States military. You're like, oh, if the U.S. military just goes in and goes all, willy-nilly on somewhere, there's a good chance they're still going to win just because of overpowering, destructive force.
I think the argument is that many of these attacks included venom in some of them, but at
the Griffin flyers aren't in league with the venom.
Yeah.
Like, it's just wild to me. Poor Emil still exists because they're good at what they do. Otherwise, Navarre would just come in and steamroll them because they have dragons and all these other fun things, blah, blah. Meanwhile, the Griffin flyers are like, oh, they don't know how much eggs are worth. Like, these people are wild. Oh, what did we do? We traded them 6 crystal eggs for 5 professors, and they felt like they got a great deal. Well, we actually came here because we wanted wards, but we weren't sure what those eggs were worth. Like, I remember my training.
They walk out onto the field, and Terran is wearing his saddle / Indarna Bjorn.
Yes, I love it so much. He's geared up when you really think about it.
And he's not embarrassed. He's like, it's totally fine. There's nothing wrong with this.
Think of the wind resistance while he's flying. Like, that must slow him down.
No, it's not that big.
The Bjorn?
Oh, the part where it clips onto Indarna?
Yeah. You would think, like, the Bjorn would be.
Maybe. She's supposed to be working. She's supposed to be flying a little bit when she is there.
Yeah, but it's like taking your kids to Disneyland. You bring this stroller anyway.
Yeah.
You're like, listen, they're going to be fine for 10 minutes.
I picture that there is some other location that is the whole harness removal, like where he can walk into it and it unclips off of him and it hangs there. So it's ready for when he walks back into it and it clips back in.
I like to imagine Sigale has to like get it on him again. Like he steps into it and she's like trying to get it on, but it's a little tight. And he's like, somebody shrunk my harness. And she's like, nobody shrunk it. Stop eating so many sheep. I think that would be fun. Like, that's my favorite. When I go, my clothes shrink. For years, you just ran with it.
Well,
like, oh no, our clothes are shrinking. Oh.
You did have a lot of cotton shirts, though, so it was very possible.
They were mostly polyester. I had a very cotton bod for a while, and it was not shrinking.
Xaden didn't get to test out the saddle, and I love Terran's line of, you can ride me when the flesh rots off my bones.
Yeah, because it's not even when I'm dead. I've been dead for a long time before you're getting on me. How long do you think it takes dinosaurs? God damn it.
Got you.
Damn it, it got me too. How long do you think it takes dragons to start to decompose?
I don't know.
Because, like, you know why plastics and stuff don't decompose naturally well, right?
No.
What decomposition is think of it as tiny little critters eating things, right? But things are only eating generally organic matter.
Oh, and that's why it was such a big deal that there's this plastic-eating fungi.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And your question is, how long would it take for them to decompose?
Dragon scales are super hard.
Oh, I was thinking like it's just bigger than the other items.
Right, but I was thinking of like the dragon scales and stuff. With fungi and things would have to work inside out, probably.
I put their scales in like an armadillo on roids.
Yeah. Google decomposing armadillo.
Oh, no, I'm not
just
Googling
curious.
this. No.
Well, think of this turtle shells. What remains after the turtle's dead?
It would take a very, 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 very long time. Xaden will be long dead by the time Terran is long dead and decomposed.
Well, yeah, because Terran's got another 100 years in the tank if nothing else happens, right?
Absolutely.
Because he's middle-aged and he's 100 years old. So, give or take 100 more years, plus decomposition.
Anyways, Violet is the first one to test this out. It should be safe. We don't know. Terran brings up the fire and how they tried to build it in a way that it can resist fire, which is important. And Violet has this moment of, well, that's not really important because only other dragons would be breathing fire. So that's not necessary.
Which is both foreshadowing and pointing out how dumb Violet is. The person who's actively trying to murder you has a dragon. Fire is still a risk for you. Like, come on.
Well, we got a little long-winded there. So this is the end of part 1. We'll be posting part 2 in about 10 more seconds.
Welcome to part 2. If you click that next button or just keep listening.
We're still
That was so bad. You're right. We're still on part 1. I've never done this before. Go slow. It was a great time. We had fun. Now get out and go live your life.
No, wait. No. Thank you all for listening. We appreciate and love you all. Please follow us here, TikTok or Instagram at Yarros.Podcast.
And then go live your life.
Bye.
Bye. Get out. We're done. This was Daggers and Shadow Daddies. Now it's my time. Toodaloo. It was fun for us. I hope it was fun for you. But that's all we've got. Goodbye. Come back in a few days. We love you.